I want to thank you guys for joining me for another episode of Keeping It Real with America's Supermom. I am so excited about my next guest. We are in the same parts, in the same state and city, pretty much, and we met on Clubhouse.
Mhm.
So if you guys have been following me, you know I'm in the Clubhouse zone. It is really kind of taken a lot of time in my daily routine because I just enjoy meeting like-minded people. So Andrea and I have been together on several stages, sharing our insights and just business tips and strategies with those who are listening. So I'm so excited to have her here today. I'm going to give her the opportunity to introduce herself before we get into all things ads. And we'll dive into that topic here shortly. But before we begin, I want to give Andrea the opportunity to introduce herself.
Well, thank you, Miss Supermom. Appreciate you and pleasure to be here. My name is Andrea D. Smith, as you can see. And the lovely thing about that is my initials spell ads like advertising. So that's in the realm of the space of what we do at the ADS agency. So I've been doing that in my business for 4.33 years. and and, and then in the corporate world before that for 15ish we'll say. And so I'm a Southeast girl. I grew up between South Carolina and Florida. My people are in Alabama now. Went to Clemson, so I'm a Clemson grad. Love it or hate it. Oh well. I know I'm in Georgia territory here, but I've been here in Atlanta for 5 years. And just before that, got to spend a year in Scotland as a global branding director. It was an amazing, transformative experience in so many ways. And I don't think I would have my business today without that.
Wow.
It was really awesome. Right. And I'm writing a whole book about it. I used to think it was cheesy, like everybody's writing a book, when I'm one of those everybody people now.
I know that's right. Well, and I think it's so good to have a memory, something that's documented, So often we just, things come up and spark us later on. It's like, oh, I did do that. I was a part of that. So I think it's a great thing to have a book. During the pandemic, that was one of the things that I wanted to have something positive to remember it from. And so I was a part of a global book project. I was the only one from the United States. And, now I could say, yeah, everybody talks negatively about the pandemic, but the connections and the opportunity to have a product that I can share with others is what really inspires me every day. So, hey, I don't think there's anything cheesy about having a book. Okay.
I take that.
So talk to us about the opportunity to go to Scotland. Many times a lot of people are afraid of new things, new places, and we're in this space now where we have to kind of let go of some of these limiting beliefs and things that aren't serving us in order to move forward in a new landscape, in new social media platforms. It's a number of new things. So how did that transpire for you?
Yeah, so I moved to Colombia. I can say this now because it's old news now, but back then I was trying to keep it on the low and make it all about the job. But really, I took this job. I was in Greenville, South Carolina, mostly all before. This is where all my career really was before I started moving around, and moved to Colombia for a guy, and but found the job for him. So we just thought we were getting married and all this good stuff, of course. And that didn't work out. But there's always a bigger plan, and I don't think there are any mistakes. I absolutely believe life brings you what you need when you need it. And, so for me, it was positioning me to be at this company that was headquartered in Scotland, and their North America headquarters was in Colombia. And I took the job, wasn't excited about it. The title wasn't exciting. It was like marketing specialist or something. And I was like, that sounds like something you could give someone out straight out of high school, like I'm like, I'm a boss. I have an MBA, I got all these years of experience, a marketing specialist.
Right. I love it. This is real stuff, though. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's how I felt about it. But I took it and I was like, I was trying to be positive about it. And then I learned that those are just, UK titles. They kind of standardized it over there. This is a manufacturing company. And so, then I learned later, like, oh, the titles aren't really like how we regard titles here per se, at least in that company. And that made me feel a little bit better. But, I just wasn't excited about it at first. And I was on the job for all of 5 weeks. And the VP of the company that I'd spent maybe a half hour with, I was put on this kind of busy, I felt like it was a busy bee job of, we got to brush up this part of the website. Corporate wants us to brush it up. So let's go talk to these people and get some fresh information from them, blah, blah, blah. So I talked to this guy. He was a VP of new build sales. And he called me back into his office. You know how you have Skype and things like that. And he was like, can you come in my office? I thought I was in trouble for something. I was like, what did I do? I only been here 5 weeks. What could I have possibly done? And he actually said, there's a role coming open in 15 minutes. I want you to apply for it. And I was like, what the heck is it? Like, what? I just got here. Like, I am in a new role. Like,
right.
Basically, it was stealing me over to his team. There's all these merger and acquisition projects happening in the company, and he was leading up one of them. And it was €100 million kind of thing. And he wanted me to be his project manager, like his little right hand, basically, for that role. And it was overseeing, people who were, looking over every department of the company, basically, and all this. And I was like, really like, to your point about new things. And I was like, are you sure? Did you look at my resume? Because I'm more marketing and this is more, like marketing is project management, but it's not, there are people who have professional project management designations and all this. And I was like, I don't know if like, that's not really me. And he said, he was impressed by our last meeting. He was telling me this big, long story. And I had caught this little detail in a photo that he was sharing because I was trying to get photos for this new refresh of the site we were working on. And he was telling me this big, long story about rebranding. And I just noticed something in a photo I thought he should pay attention to. And it just set him off. He'd never seen that in the photo before. It never occurred to him that it was there. He drove by this place every day. But he always goes around this side and blah, blah, blah. And I guess it just kind of blew his mind that it was there all the time and he had never seen it. And he was like, you pay attention to detail and I need someone who does that. And he's like, I also like your attitude and you can't teach attitude. And he said, anything else you need to know, I can teach you, but you can't teach attitude. And that's what I need. So that's it. I want you to be my right hand, basically. And that's all that happened. And that role, so I was only there 5 weeks, I told you. So the boss who originally hired me was mad that I got stolen. He was really sincerely mad at me for a good while. And but now we were good. Now we're still good friends today. But back then he was kind of mad for a minute. And it was just a different world. And basically that role turned into a lot more work with the global people in Scotland. And the lady who was the global branding director at the time needed to take a maternity leave, and they get a really long, you'll appreciate this, Miss SuperMom of 15 kids. They get a very long maternity leave. So you get 6 months, and then she was going to tack on an extra 3 for 9 months. And then she wanted someone to cover her for an entire year. Wow. And it was all this running around, story with all that. But basically, I ended up getting over there because of that.
Wow.
And it was just a great experience, of relationship building and trust and working with teams. And And then I was a pedestrian over there too. So now I kind of wish I wish every city in America was safe and had good pedestrian lifestyles. I miss getting to like walk to the grocery store.
Yeah.
Technically, I could walk to the grocery store where I am now in Marietta, but you'd have to cross like 4 lanes, and
Yeah.
like I'm not about to do that.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but
Just
yeah,
a totally different lifestyle. Yeah. Having that. I mean, if you're a walker, you're not going to have 1,000 bags of groceries. So it teaches you to eat differently, your whole routine changes because things are more fresh. You're going to the store with lighter packages, leaving home because you're walking, as opposed to filling your whole trunk up with stuff and wasting a lot of food. So yeah, I feel you on that.
I learned the hard way about I forgot for a minute that I was not in the US and that I didn't have a car, and they have a TK Maxx over there. So me and my mom and sisters, we loved TJ Maxx and Home Goods and all those places. And they had a TK Maxx because of some branding issue there, and same family of companies. And so I found that space, and I wanted to get some things that make my new little place feel a little more homey, even though I was only going to be there for a year. And went there and just filled up my cart with all kinds of stuff, big old pillows and blankets, and here's some art and a big mirror and all this. And I got all that, and I was like, you dummy, like what the where, how are you gonna get all this home with your 2 arms? You have 2 arms, I don't have to like call a taxi, and then we ended up out. But you forget, like, to your point, we're used to loading it all up here, and there it's more of a culture of get what you need, keep it light, and all that stuff.
It makes a difference, with your mindset. I mean, you don't have a lot of baggage every day to kind of go through. We carry so much baggage, figuratively and literally. So I love the whole thing of, this transition, because a lot of people are in this space where, oh my goodness, you mean me? I don't have experience in this and all that. So talk to us about the mindset shift that you had to go through to make that transition, because a lot of people are in this place now. It may not be Scotland, but they've had this job where they were top person in this industry. It's disrupted. They have to do something different, utilizing some of those skills, but in a different way. So what advice would you give them about that?
Yeah, I would say, and women are bigger culprits of this than men. I think men have an easier time of saying, oh, I only have 15% of the experience required. No problem. Apply,
Absolutely.
And we will be like, I'm missing one thing. I'm not going to do it, because it's just a whole different mindset. So to your point about mindset, so I would say I did go through that myself. And I think we do all face, that's a big topic on Clubhouse right now, is imposter syndrome. I see so many rooms about imposter syndrome. And even people, even big people like Will Smith, face imposter syndrome with all their success and everything they've, accomplished. And they're 50 some years old now and still think they're not worthy on some level for something, for some job, for some project. And, what I had to say to myself after a while was, after I did all that negative talk to myself and was like, why would they want me? And why would they, and why not someone else that's already over there? And, I went through all those things in my head, like, well, it doesn't really make sense. Why, and then I started having to realize, why not me? Why couldn't it be me? So you have to think about all the experience that you have, what you can uniquely bring to the table at the time. Then I started talking myself up, like, okay, look at what you've done so far. Look at all the value you've brought so far. Look at what people are looking at the work you've done. And even though you don't think it's all that special, it's special here. It has a place here. Nobody else in the company really had like there were of six. It's not a huge company. It's like 6,000 people, but of the 6,000, 50 had the title of marketing or something. And of that, there was really only a smaller percentage that actually had marketing experience before this company and all that kind of thing. And so I did bring, some fresh stuff to the table that they hadn't been doing in this industry yet, hadn't seen yet. And even though it seemed basic to me, it was big to them. So you just have to start thinking of all the reasons why it does make sense and not all the reasons why it doesn't make sense, because you could talk yourself out of anything. So
Amen. So
but
true.
it is the truth. And so I learned, say yes. One of my favorite, the guy who stole me to that first role that ended up being, landing me into these other roles, he always said, say yes, you can always say no later. And so, so that was a big lesson. Say yes, even when you think you're not ready. Because who's to say that you're not besides you? Again, you could talk yourself down all day. So that was the thing I just really had to get to that place where you have to say, okay, granted, this is where I realistically am. Somebody sees something in me that maybe I didn't see, which is another thing. Sometimes we are looking at ourselves one way and other people see other things in us at any age. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be a young person. I was like in my mid 30s back then. And you would think you know everything about yourself then, but you don't always know everything about yourself or who you'll become or how you evolve. So I would just say, challenge those thoughts that make you think this isn't you, this isn't the time, you're not ready, you need all this extra education, you need all this extra experience. Because I didn't, and and I just said yes, and I'm so glad.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I did.
Yeah, I totally get that. And I think, it takes work, in terms of being in the right company of people. So even though we have to go through the work of self-talk and, building ourselves up about this, it also makes a difference the people that we're around. Because, the vision that other people want to include you in, sometimes your current environment doesn't really lean to that. So did you have any issues where you had to kind of find a way to navigate through that, where people are like, Scotland, what, girl?
People were say they kind of felt like it was a courageous thing. Like, I can't believe you're doing that. I can't believe you're going over there. And almost making me feel like I should be scared. Like, I should be afraid. They're like, you're all alone. You're not married going over there. You don't have any kid. Like, what if something happens? Basically, I could read their thoughts. They were like thinking, what if something happens to you? And you're all by yourself, and you're a woman, and you're black, and and truthfully, I didn't know all there was to know. I didn't know how Scottish people looked at people of color, Americans. Did they hate us? Did they love us? All I knew was this is my world of coworkers that I know so far. And I've been there a couple times, but I just didn't have a spirit of fear about it. It became a spirit of adventure. It became a spirit of excitement for me. So when people were like, basically saying they would be so scared and why aren't you scared?
Right.
I was like, to me, this is like winning the lottery. Like, I wish everybody could do that. I wish everybody could live overseas for a year and on someone else's dime and get paid to do it. And, get to experience a whole nother culture and world. Like, everybody doesn't get to do that. So I felt special. And so I was like, why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't
Exactly. Exactly. I feel you. We had this time where my husband, he used to work for Pfizer. And so I think at the time we might have had like 7 kids, 7 or 8. And so, he would always want to bring us with him whenever he went somewhere. So he had a training in Chicago and then he had to go to New York. And so we were staying there in like a little motel because he stayed on the property where they had all the recruits or whatever you want to call them. And he still wanted us to go. And, just being in a different culture uh, shows you how to live. I mean, their real estate, the places that they have are so small. And it's like, you learn how to make it work. And it made you have an appreciation for back home, how you do things, or seeing how wasteful or whatever, conscious that we are, and we don't even realize it. But it's sometimes just being in that different environment that you're just like, okay, I need to redo some stuff when I get back home, because, this definitely, I can have a much more richer life incorporating some of this culture in it.
You are hitting all the nails on the head. Like, did you read my book? Because you're so right. There's so many things that you learn. One of the biggest ones was minimalism. Being able to live with. There's only so much you can take in two big luggage. I got the biggest luggage bags I could get. And then I shipped a couple of boxes. But after that, I mean, are you going to ship your whole life for a year?
Right.
No. And so it just taught you that you don't need all this stuff that we get. And, they're just little shots of dopamine, these, this American shopping culture we're a part of. And, getting something new is great, but it all has to go somewhere. And I will tell you, so I haven't told very many people the end of this, but what I think is going to be the end, because I'm still working on it. But definitely towards the end, when I'm back in the US, and there's my storage unit of this 3-bedroom house in a storage unit, stuffed all in one little box. And you lift that thing up and look at it after you haven't seen it for a year, and you're like, look at this crap.
It is so true. It's the truth. We did the same thing. We have done the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And you realize, like, you don't need this stuff. It just makes you feel like you should have it. And yeah, so, but you really don't need it all. You don't need it at all. Yeah.
So, I mean, I love that we had to downsize for a while, just not only just getting stuff in priority. My husband was the only one working. Kids were starting to go to college. And so we downsized in this house, and we were planning to live there for a year. It ended up being 4 years, I think. We had the stuff in storage. So then we moved and got all that out of storage. And it's like that stuff is still in boxes. Okay. And we just taken all these trips to get it to this other house. And, you just end up moving boxes. And it's like, you don't miss it. You haven't seen it in 4 years. Plus, by this time, I'm like, this just doesn't make sense,
Yeah.
But it's that unlearning, the mindset that you had. You really got to put work into doing that, though.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's the truth. And,
yeah. So fast forward to having your own agency and things that you're doing now, during this time after a global pandemic, doing transitions and restructuring and all the things that we've all had to do during this pandemic. What advice would you give somebody about the mindset or just things you have to do in order to be where you are today?
Well, yeah, so many things have happened, with the pandemic and everything. I would say we have to be flexible. If the pandemic didn't teach us anything else, is we got to be a bit flexible and nimble, ready to move if needed. Luckily for me, because no one knew what was going to happen when all this hit. And, in marketing, anytime there's a smell of an economic downturn, we're one of the first things to get cut. Sadly, even though every white paper and every business study ever done says, the most successful companies invested in a downturn, but you got to be in a position to do that, right? So,
right.
But so, yeah, I was fully expecting, I was bracing for cutbacks, clients dropping out, all kinds of stuff. And it did not happen. And I think that's a testament to the economy. But it didn't happen, but I was ready for it. And there was only one client. There was one major client who's involved in the airport industry. So they have a presence in a lot of airports across the country, and we knew they were going to be affected. But just having a conversation with that owner, and they were in the middle of it, like, we don't know what we're going to do yet. And I encourage them, let's think about like your past capabilities. Like, let's go back to that. What else can be done? What else can you do? How else can we pivot your people to do anything else that makes sense, for what you can do? And they ended up finding, thankfully, some great mass transit work, doing the sanitization of city buses. So they got those city contracts, and that ended up being more lucrative than the airport stuff they were doing, which was amazing. So that just ended up working out great for them, which was great for me.
Amen.
I was like, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it all worked out. But I would say be flexible, be ready. Nothing's promised, but if you stand firm in what your capabilities are and what your gifts are, you can make it through anything. You can make it through anything, and you can come out better. I was telling that. Have you seen that group on Clubhouse? It's like the Miracle Morning group. There's all
yeah.
I love them. I love that book.
They are good.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I'm all over the place. Look, I'm like, is there a room I haven't been in? Okay, I got a problem.
Well, you can't love Clubhouse without having a problem of some sort.
Yes, it's some good content. Either you're sharing, and the thing that I have found, I say, okay, I'm going to get on here. I'm going to have a room, and then you end up going to somebody else's room. Well, then they've heard you in your room, so they ask you to come on the stage. Well, then you're just sharing one thing. Next thing you know, they're moderating you. So then it's like, oh, I can't just duck out, and it just ends up being like a whole other job on Clubhouse, right?
It really is. It really is. The more you think about it, like, I'm watching some of these people who have their clubs already, and like, everybody wants a club. Mine's in the queue somewhere.
Exactly.
And, I'm watching people who do have clubs, kind of getting themselves together and talking to people. And, the more they look at recruiting mods and all this and getting regular rooms down, I'm like, this kind of is a job. Like,
it is.
Somebody should be getting paid for that.
I know. So and that's the part I hadn't even anticipated. I'm just thinking I'm gonna go on there, do my thing, and then it's like, well, then your Instagram, okay, because you can only connect through there. So then I'm like, now I'm posting stuff on Instagram, and then I'm scheduling Zoom calls. I said, Lord, that's a whole nother job. Okay, I need to go over here and do my work.
Sorry. Yeah, that's the truth.
So, what is the best way for the audience to get a hold of you?
The ADS agency is THEADS, like ads, like my initials, like advertising agency. The ADS agency, that's on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. It's my favorite place. And then on Clubhouse, it's, and everywhere else, if you want my personal, it's Miss ADS 08, MISS ADS, same thing, 08.
Okay. And what final words do you want to share with everybody?
I think America's Supermom is fantastic, and you keep shining and doing everything that you're doing, and follow her example, because everywhere I see America's Supermom, she is just bringing light and love and value everywhere she goes. So you do that too.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And you have definitely given us some great insight. I hope everybody was taking notes. I'm all about writing down these powerful mindset shifts that we can all have in order to be better versions of ourselves. So I encourage all the listeners to reach out to Andrea and have a phone call. If something resonated with you, stop being stuck where you are and move forward. Get some new energy, some new people that can pour into you and help you be a better version of yourself. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. We'll be sure that Andrea gets them so she can answer them for you. And thanks so much again, Andrea, for coming by.
Thank you, Michelle. It's been wonderful.
Awesome. Well, thank you too. And we want to thank everybody who was watching with us today. And remember to take care, be the best version of yourself, continue to grow and evolve. And we will see you on the next episode. Bye for now, everybody.